Sure shot, baby.
So, good day, everyone. We're here for another episode of the DVD show. So, for today, we have one of the best basketball players here in the Philippines, and he's been leading Gilas Pilipinas over their last few games here in the FIBA windows, and most recently in the tournament in Jordan. Also, he's one of the best wings, and he's still really young and can improve a lot in being one of the main cogs of the team in the future. And he's also part of the Ateneo Blue Eagles for the UAAP. And I'm now welcoming here on the DVD show Dwight Ramos. Thank you for joining me here on my podcast.
What's going on, bro? And
Yeah,
thank you for being here. I
yeah,
know it's been a long time.
yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. A lot of my friends and my relatives have been wanting you here on my podcast. And to start things off, I'd wanna ask, how have you been doing? I know you guys just finished off the tournament in Jordan and you're in quarantine now. So what have you been doing so far?
Yeah, these quarantines, you just have to do it. You have to get through it. Um, I'm not really even sure how long the quarantine is, 7 or 10 days, but just here chilling, watching movies, playing PS4, trying to pass the time.
Yeah, you don't get, how do you don't you get bored like in the middle of the day or something, and then you don't get tired of the games that you play or the movies that you watch eventually?
So I get super tired. I'm super tired and bored, but I still have jet lag, so most of the day I'm still sleeping.
Oh,
My
okay.
schedule is really really off right now, so I'm just sleeping random times in the day and then playing games and just trying to pass time. Really, just I don't really know much else to do here.
The time difference, is it really like far from the one in Jordan, or is it not that bad?
I think it's 5 hours behind.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, they're in the Middle East. So yeah. But did you guys still train like through Zoom, like the workouts, or are you resting for now since there's no tournament anytime soon?
Yeah, it's we're just resting now. It was a long time. I mean, we've been in a bubble for I don't even know how
Since
long, since
Jan, I think, right?
January. Just
Yeah.
bubbles, and so it's just nice to finally get a break. It's really tiring with all
Yeah.
that.
They postponed the tournament, the FIBA Asia Cup, I think, because of the Delta variant also in Indonesia. That's why I think it's also good for you guys that you'll be able to, yeah, rest and still finally prepare for the next. I think the qualifiers for the World Cup start soon because the 2023 World Cup
Yep.
is already coming. So they made it kind of like FIFA where there's like 2 games or 3 games per window. So I think that's the preparation that you guys are gonna focus on after, right?
Yeah, I think it's the World Cup qualifier should be in November if everything goes right with the COVID and everything. But we'll probably get back to preparing for that in a couple months or maybe before. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited for that because yeah, your team's pretty young and you guys have great chemistry. But I think the time together with this crop of players, you guys are really playing well. Even if the other countries really didn't expect it, like yeah, Korea didn't or Serbia didn't really expect it, but you guys did pretty well, and it's exciting for the next few years leading into the World Cup. But before we go into more basketball talk, I just wanted to ask if you've been watching the Olympics. Like the Philippines have been doing well with the medals with Heidelin, Nesty Petesio, and Yumir, and Carlo Paalam's like guaranteed a silver when we're recording this. So by the time it's out, he already won a silver or a gold. So what are your thoughts on the Filipino athletes in the Olympics if you've been watching, and what could you say? Because it's our best showing ever since the Olympics started.
Yeah, it's really an inspiration. I mean, with how the COVID is handled here and like all our situation in the Philippines, to see them reach those new levels, bring glory to our country. I mean, it's really big for them. It's inspiring for me, and I don't know. I'm just watching, and I just feel really happy for them. I don't really even know them
Yeah, me
personally.
also.
I,
Some of
I
them.
feel really happy for them.
Mm. Were you able to watch any of them live? And like Heidelin, when I watched, I really got shocked and I was so happy. I had a meeting, I think, at that time, but I was watching it on like the other screen. And Were you able to watch any of the fights or any of the matches live? And yeah, what was your reaction with the results?
I wasn't able to watch anything live. I just saw like videos because we were in Jordan and the Wi-Fi wasn't really too good over there.
Okay.
We couldn't. It was really tough over there. So I
Yeah,
just saw
it's
videos and highlights of what they're doing, and I saw Ymir's knockout punch. That one, whew,
oh yeah, that was
that
really
was
great.
really nice.
Yeah. It's like 30 seconds into the fight, I think they knew that he was gonna beat up the guy. But then after 2 minutes, he was down and he was still complaining that he got hit on the back of the head or something. And then I don't know. And also the Nesty fight, I think she could have won the finals against the Japanese fighter. I'm not really sure how she won, but it's another story. But
Yeah.
yeah, the silver's still great for us. It's a great showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the what do you think of the other sports also? Like yeah, basketball, they get a lot of support, volleyball, and like maybe even football like the Askels have. But then now, like yeah, you mentioned that both of us were not really familiar with some of these athletes and the exposure that they get. They're only getting it now that it's the Olympics and they're performing at the highest level. But what are your opinion also on other sports getting equal like attention or support, because some of them they feel that it's still lacking.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, with them performing so well, hopefully they'll get more attention in their everyday lives, like how basketball and volleyball are in the Philippines. But it's not really something you can handle. That's just sort of what the fans like, whatever the fans' heart wants, they want, and it's sort of out of your control, really. You just got to keep doing what you love, and for them, they love their sport, their job, and it shows.
Yeah, the boxing, Manny Pacquiao has been a very inspirational for them, I believe, and they could really look up to him. That's why they're successful at a young age and now at the Olympics. So that's why I think that's also one reason. Like Heidelin Diaz has been doing well, and then there's a younger weightlifter, Eileen Ando. I think she also did well. She was like seventh place in her first Olympics. So I guess this Olympics was a great like stepping stone for future athletes, like maybe in basketball for you guys in the future, even if you qualify for the Olympics of this generation, hopefully you guys could also do well at that stage, because
Yeah.
if I don't know if you've been watching the Olympics, like the basketball games, it's been really exciting also.
Yeah, I've been watching just lately when we got back here. The
Yeah.
last two games, the USA, Australia, and Slovenia, France. I watched both of those.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the international game? Because for instance, the NBA, NBA players, they had a hard time from Team USA to adjust. They lost the warm-up matches in the Las Vegas, and then here in Japan, they lost to what do you call this? France by 7, but then they were able to adjust already, and still they haven't lost ever since, except maybe in the gold medal match. I'm not really cheering for them. I want France to win, honestly. But what are your thoughts on the game? Because yeah, they've changed their game plan and their playing style, and you could see from Slovenia like these players aren't NBA players, and from France also, but they play really well compared, even if they're compared to NBA players.
Yeah, for the USA team, for me, I think it's just they're used to thinking they're the best in the world, and when you're playing against someone that is defending the country on their chest, they play a little differently. They play with a little more heart than someone that's just coming in thinking it should be easy for them. So I think that's kind of what happened in their warm-up games, thinking the USA teams in the past just breezed by everybody.
Mhm.
So the level of competition sort of evening out around the world, and I think that's just sort of what happened to them. But once their chemistry started going together, it's still really hard for anybody to beat the American team.
Yeah, personally, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy like the European style of play, like how Luka plays, Jokic, and all those players, or do you enjoy the American style of play, like how like KD play and Booker and all those players?
Um, when I'm watching as a fan, you really like to see
Yeah.
like the Americans and their nice highlight plays and everything. But
Mhm.
I think personally, when I'm playing, I would prefer to play more of a European style of team where it's more team based and not so much isolation stuff. So that's sort of my feelings towards that.
Yeah, I really like the USA team if they're able to play together. Like in the last two games against Spain and Australia, you could see the cutting. There are a lot of cutting and off the ball movement, but that weren't present. Against France, they were all standing around and waiting for Lillard or Booker or KD to make their own play. But then now there's more off the ball movement, and I enjoy that more. Like for instance, Slovenia. Like I don't know all their players except maybe Luka and Zoran Dragic. But then if you watch them play, they play so well together. I mean, everything starts with Luka, but then their systems put in place and they've been working on it for how many years. And when I watch it, I really have that vision that hopefully, since Coach Tab's trying to implement the European also style of play for you guys, that you guys will be that fun to watch also, and that high level of play in the next 2 years in the World Cup, maybe, hopefully, because we're hosting it also.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything keeps progressing right and we could put on a good showing when the World Cup comes.
Yeah, but then moving on to the Jordan tournament, like I watched a few games, like even some of the time of the games were at like 2 a.m. I still watched like against Tunisia, I think the exciting one, and I didn't get to watch the semifinals one against Jordan. I think Jordan, Jordan, yeah, and you guys reintegrated the 30 Dave Ray Suerte, Matt Nieto, like I think some of the other guys that weren't part of the OQT and the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers. How was the whole experience in Jordan? And even if you only got fourth place, how was it for you?
Yeah, I think it was just more of like a practice and training for us. We only had 4 days of practice before we left there with all the new guys, and we were trying a new offense out there, and it was just really testing, seeing things. Because at this point, like nothing's really set in stone with the team and with our offenses, defenses. So really, it was more of like a training ground for us, and there was a lot of things we took away from that and we learned from it, and it was really a good experience playing over there.
Yeah, how about the new offense that you mentioned? What were the new schemes that Coach Tab's been trying to implement for future competitions?
I think it was sort of just testing out like more these ball screen stuff, ball screen offenses. And so we were just trying a new offense that we put in for like less than a week, and we were trying it out. And so I think we got some good film on what we were doing there, and hopefully we can learn from that and make some adjustments going into the World Cup qualifiers.
Yeah, hopefully, because that's been really a great preparation for you guys, and we're hosting it in 2023, and hopefully we really do a better showing than the 2019 one where we didn't actually win a game at, I think, on the tournament. But yeah, you mentioned that you guys learned a lot from your opponents and the games with the experiments. Like I noticed that because I watched the first game against Egypt, and I thought you guys were more talented or you guys had more players. But then I was kind of noticing that you were trying things out, maybe new rotations also, and the new combinations of players. Since so the 30 they're there, they weren't in the previous games. So I think it's also a great training ground for you guys. But from your opponents, what did you learn the most, like personally, or maybe also as a team? What did you guys learn that you could really improve on from the film and the observations of the coaches and you guys?
I think just we're still young and we're playing against grown men, and so they're a little more physical than us, and so we're just by playing more of those games, you start to get a feel of what you can do, and what you can't do. Where it's a foul and not really a foul, but so I think you just learn little things like that as you play more games, and just working on our physicality and speed of our play, and then just taking those things and trying to make us better when we join up again together in the next bubble.
Yeah. Watching the last two games where you guys lost to Tunisia and Jordan, the battle for third and the semis game, I think in Instagram there were a lot of videos that there were controversial calls, and the Hoop Junkie, I think they were reposting some of them, and I follow them. I think you follow them also on IG. And I saw it. So how did you guys still continue playing despite the unfortunate calls or the unfortunate instances wherein you really couldn't control it anymore with the calls and some of the other things happening. I think so. Coach Shandy and someone, Carl, I think, was complaining in one of the last out of bounds plays because they were giving it to Jordan, and it was so obvious that it was off them. So how did you guys still keep your mindset in the game despite all these other stuff happening on the side?
Yeah, I mean, some of those calls are definitely controversial. But this like it's just the home court advantage, I guess. And so there's really nothing you can do about it. Whatever happens, you can't really control what happens with the ref or with any of those things. You just got to move on to the next play and try and make it work from there. There's not You can't really control what the refs do. You just move on from it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you personally was the one inbounding the ball, but then they called the 5 second violation. But if you watch the slow mo replay, it's only 4 seconds. I don't know what's five and four. I mean, in any language, it's basic what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is. So I'm not sure what they called in that. And it was a close game. It was like 4 minutes left, I think.
No, it was like it was less than a minute left, and
Oh,
down by four, I think. And I already knew the count was when he blew the whistle. I knew the count was early, but there's nothing I could do. I threw it in and he called 5 seconds. But in my mind, I knew I was like, dang, that whistle was quick.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's nothing I could do about it after that. They're not gonna
Reverse it.
they're not gonna reverse their call. They stand by their calls.
Yeah, and of course, if you're a player, sometimes you're reacting with your emotions also. But then after the game, if you see it, it's really exactly 4 seconds, and you don't know how to accept it if it's crucial. And it's a semis game. It's just not like a tune-up game that
Yeah.
you're just playing. I mean, you can let it go. It's kind of hard to let it go more if it means something, like it's a semis game, a finals game. So it's really
Yeah,
tough. But then,
definitely.
but then for you, since you guys got more players back, you were more healthy, and Coach Tab was trying a lot of new things that you guys felt that you could improve on for the next windows. How about the really good things that was flourishing for you guys in the tournament? Like you made, I think, 7 or 8 threes in one game, just for instance. But for you, you as a player and as a team, what did you really like about the team and Jordan?
I think it just showed like how we battled. There's a lot of instances where we're playing against the home court advantage. We're playing against these grown men, and it's like there's a lot of things that we try and learn from. I'm happy with how our team is taking in the experience, and no one's really sitting there negative. We're all positive and thinking how we can improve, and I think that's just the best thing about playing with everybody. That's why I love it so much, being on the team.
Yeah, I think it's really great that despite the pandemic, you guys are getting the reps because in 2020 there were barely any games. I think you played 2 games in Bahrain, and then pre-pandemic you played 1 game in against Indonesia. It's kind of tough, and you really need the experience to play against top level competition in order to still improve because it's really different in practice and when you play games against various countries that play various styles.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
But then before moving on to more Gilas talk and the other games like the ones here in the Philippines with Korea and the games that you weren't able to play against Serbia and Dominican Republic, it's good to talk about like your childhood or upbringing and where you came from because you didn't grow up here in the Philippines, you grew up in the United States. And I wanted to know more about your upbringing and childhood. And was basketball your first love already as a young child, or did you do other activities like art or other sports or like theater? I don't know, anything.
Yeah, for me, my parents, they introduced me to every sport. I used to do summer camps, and I would do every single sport: swimming, baseball, soccer, football, basketball. And really the one that just stuck with me the most was basketball. I would, right when I come home from school, I would go drop my bag inside the house
Yeah.
and grab the basketball, start playing outside. And then during my birthdays, Christmas, the only 2 things I would ask for was either new basketball shoes or a new basketball. And then if I got the new basketball, I would sleep with the basketball. So really basketball was my first love, and I never asked for anything except for basketball shoes or a new basketball to play with. So really there was nothing else for that.
But then what made you choose basketball? Was there like a reason, even at a young age, that you really loved it? Because other sports are fun as well. I mean, I have other friends that really enjoy other sports. I mean, of course, basketball is also my number one sport, even if I don't play it anymore as much as before when I was varsity. But then now I watch it. I watch like all these podcasts and shows also that are basketball related, all the NBA, PBA, UAAP. So I could relate to you for sure. But like, what are the reasons you chose basketball?
I really don't really have a reason. It's just that's just how it went. You know, like I was growing up, I just really loved playing basketball. Like in front of the house, me and my brother would play until it was nighttime, and then our parents would get home and ask us if we did our homework. But you know, we just been playing the whole day since we got home, and I don't know, it just really stuck with me that I really loved playing basketball since I was young.
How old were you at the time? Around what, 7 maybe or younger?
I started playing basketball when I was like 5 years old.
Oh, okay, that's even younger. Because I played like yeah, around 6, maybe like 6 or 7, like legit one, like not like the ones at home only, like shooting at a small hoop. I would play like in the clinic, basketball clinic around like 6 or 7. That's why it's pretty young also. But then for you, since you tried a lot of sports, like your parents made you try a lot of sports, what could you say is the advantage of also trying out a lot of these sports, and maybe you could apply also, pretend you chose one sport already but then you tried out the others, what could you apply from those others that you could apply to that one sport you chose?
Yeah, I think it's really big introducing for you know introducing yourself to every sport, because I remember I used to have like knee pains, and then I my parents had me join the swim team, and I don't know, somehow the swim team like strengthened my legs and
Yeah.
my knees never hurt anymore. And then I played football in 8th grade and in my first year of high school, and that kind of built my body into a more physical person, because I used to be a little softer. But when I
Mhm.
started playing football, I became more physical, and that kind of helped me in basketball too. So I think you can take a little bit from every sport and use it to help the sport you really concentrate on.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think they could also teach a lot of lessons. Like I think sports is a great way to teach some, values or virtues that you want to teach your children. And I want to ask your take also on that, because for me, like that's why my parents made me try basketball also. It's just that I liked it already. So I didn't really try other sports anymore, like some other children. But then for you, what are your thoughts on the parents making children try sports? Because yeah, like the values of hard work, discipline, and fortitude, grit, all these other virtues that you want to teach your children, like you can't just tell them by talking to them. They'll be like, what do you mean? Like you need to do it, like have an example. But then in sports, it's the best teacher also in terms of the virtues. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with it, because I have so many instances in where, like, I remember I was playing football in 8th grade, and I was so tired practicing every day, and football, you just hitting each other with pads and helmets, and my body was so bruised up and sore, and I was like, I asked my parents one time, like, can I just skip practice today? Can you just tell them I'm sick? But they told me I have to finish what I started, and I joined the team. I wanted to play this, and so they still made me go to that practice. And it's just a life lesson going through, like, there's times where you don't want to work, you don't want to do these things, but sometimes you just really have to do it. And then it all paid off, made me a better person, a better player. And there's lots of instances like that. Like, I remember in middle school, I got cut from the basketball team. Then the next year, lost 20 pounds. I made the team, and then every year I started improving like that. And so there's lots of things that you can take away from sports. It's not just the actual sport. It's like the life lessons in that too.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I appreciate podcasting. Like, and also because in TV shows, sometimes it's more like constructed. Like, you need to follow what the producer wants, or the topic that's viral now, or what's controversial, or what you'll talk about. But in podcasts, like you learn more about also the stories of the athletes, and when they are able to share like what you shared here in the than here in my podcast, and not everyone is able to have the opportunity to also share those experiences wherein they learned these lessons at such a young age. So it's great for an inspiration also for people that will listen, because yeah, what you were like in middle school, that was pretty young, but then it was already imparted in you to I don't have that life lesson at now, even at a older, even when you're older, you still be able to apply what you learned in middle school. And maybe if you weren't in sports, you never know if you would have learned that at a young age.
Mhm. Exactly. I
Yeah.
don't. Without those sports, I wouldn't have been the same person.
Yeah, for sure. But then, yeah, since you mentioned that you chose basketball, despite all these lessons you learned in football and all the pain and grueling practices you had, but then what was the breakthrough moment that you knew you could take it seriously? And yeah, you played college ball before going here to the Philippines, and you also played high school in the West Coast. And when did you know that you could really have a mark and play professionally eventually?
Um, like well, even when I was 5 years old, my dream was always to play on the Lakers. Everybody's dream is to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
But I think when it finally became serious to me was in middle school, maybe around seventh, eighth grade. I used to just play one time a year, one season a year, because they just have one league in my hometown. You just play there one time a year and then wait for next year and next year. Until seventh grade, I got invited to a travel team, and then from that team, I was playing year round games year round, and I started playing against these big name guys that you would see on the internet, and it just kind of inspired me. Like I want to be like them, and then from there, I just took it year by year, and then I was just thinking how I could improve. Then finally, when it came to high school, that's when I was already thinking about how I could improve myself to the point where I'll play college. Then in college, I would try to think of how I would improve myself so I could become a pro. And so I just took it one step at a time. I didn't really look too far ahead.
Yeah, and your stint in the US, you played nga in Cal State Fullerton for 2 years, I think, and then you went to Cal State Pomona for 1 year, and it was kind of tough for you because I think you didn't get that much minutes compared to like what you get here in the Philippines with Gilas. I think you haven't played in Ateneo, but then you'll get a lot of minutes there as well. So what was the great learning experiences that you could share here on the podcast? Maybe because yeah, you didn't get a lot of minutes or the opportunities that you really wanted. Because I know that we all know that you have the talent and the skills to really excel at the collegiate level, even in the United States. But then sometimes it's really the fit and the system and the opportunity also that will really propel you to be successful. So unfortunately, I didn't get that many minutes in those colleges. But how was it for you? What did you learn a lot from it?
Yeah, I learned mostly stuff about myself, like working hard, even when things aren't really going my way. There's things that I couldn't control at the schools, like coaches' decisions.
Yeah, those ones.
Um, just those playing time, those things are not really too much in my control. It's just if I go in, I try and do my best. If I don't, you know, I'll use the time to get better. I remember games where I wouldn't play. We'd end at 10:30. I would get in my car and drive to the gym and start working out. Um, just there's those things like that. I didn't let it bother me too much. I wasn't playing, but inside in myself I knew like I could be playing, and I need to get better. Even if I'm not playing, I'll find a way to get better. So that's really how I took my experience there in the States. I tried to learn from the players, from what the coaches were saying, but I wasn't like negative or sour towards anybody
Yeah.
there, or
Yeah.
just because I wasn't playing. I just found other ways to get better.
Yeah, that's a great optimistic view that others should really have. Like, especially now in the pandemic, a lot of people are sad and they feel like their dreams are cut short because it's like
Hmm.
almost 2 years already, 1.5 years. So your dreams, you don't have the opportunity to try to achieve it because there's no face to face interaction with other people, because it's kind of tough to still try to achieve some things you want in life in a virtual setup. But then yeah, to have an optimistic view and still seeing the opportunity to still grow and evolve, like how you had, is a great mindset to have. But then I'm interested, if there was one like day or one story that you were really down and you overcame that feeling or those emotions and still continued to play? Was there a story that you could share in those down times that you had, and how would you inspire others to continue still pursuing their dreams?
Yeah, definitely. Those experiences came for me in the States. At my colleges, there was so many times where I felt like, I should be playing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was upset, but I would go home, talk to my parents, and they would always tell me, take the best out of the situation. Just learn from what the coaches are telling me, um, and then learn from what the players that are playing, learn from them. So it was mostly a learning experience for me. And I remembered so many times where I wouldn't play in the game, and then either the same night or early the next morning, I was in the gym working out already, trying to catch up. So I just felt like since I wasn't playing it, I really had to try extra hard to catch up to everyone. And I didn't really let it keep me down. I wasn't playing. I wasn't just like, oh, I'm a bench player. I'm not going to let it sink into my head that I'm just going to stay 4 years, sit on the bench, and they'll be fine with me. I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't content, and so I really worked hard to get to where I was, and I think that's something that everyone don't let things keep you down. There's always a way to rise back up, and I think that's just how I did it. Me being here with this new opportunity, I sort of I worked hard to be here, even if my opportunities in the States weren't the flashiest. I was still working. I was still working hard to get here.
Yeah, for sure. That's really inspiring for any athlete. Like now you have a lot of followers and fans. Like for sure. Like when I followed you on Instagram before, you didn't have you only had the I don't know how many thousands. Now it's like 150K. And it's a really great inspiration for Filipinos because a lot of Filipinos now look up to you, especially with those great games that you had these previous windows. And it's really great that people could learn from you through your interviews and through your play also on the court. So it's not only through basketball, but also life, that all the stuff you went through, it's not easy. And now where you are being one of the great players here in the country, that people should could still get and learn from you and all your experiences in the States.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Work
then
hard. Everybody got a chance.
yeah, for sure. But then yeah, eventually you decided to move here to the Philippines in 2019, I think, around that year. What was the decision like? Was it like a long process? Because I heard from Enzo Flojo, I think he guested on my podcast like a few weeks back, and he mentioned since under 16 Gilas, I believe they were trying to recruit you already. And then you mentioned, or Coach Tab mentions in previous interviews, that he's been trying to recruit you for years already. But then yeah, your dream was to play in Division 1 and play in the NBA. But then for that's why you still didn't go to Ateneo yet. But then eventually you decided to go after how many years? And what was the decision like? Was it like did it take how many weeks, how many months that you were like, okay, like you told your parents that I want to go to the Philippines already? How is it like?
That was sort of I wasn't happy at the Division 2 school. I wasn't happy there, and
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a new situation for me. And my brother was graduating high school. He was looking for something too, and so we kind of planned it together to go to the because it's hard for just one of us to go to the Philippines. We both of us have never been there before,
Yeah.
and so we decided that it would be best if we both went. And so we took a visit here and we practiced with Ateneo, and we stayed here trying to see the life in the Philippines because it was really new for me.
For sure. Yeah.
And when we practiced with the team, it felt like we've been there for a year already. We were practicing it. Everybody was so nice to us, and it wasn't just that fake nice that they're trying to get us here. They were really nice, and
Mm.
yeah, and so we fell in love with the team, the school, and that was it. We're just here now.
Yeah, you were in the States for like your whole life. So was there any other school though that tried to recruit you, or is it just Ateneo? I mean, even earlier, not just in 2019, like even before that, were there other schools that tried, but you didn't really want to yet?
Yeah, I mean, in out of high school, I think there were some other schools. I can't really remember. We had some dinners with the other schools, trying to get to know everybody, know the coaches and stuff. But Ateneo and Coach Tab were the ones that stood out in high school from the Philippines. And even after 3 years of me playing in the States, they still wanted me. And so I think that just said a lot about them. And that's why my decision was to go to Ateneo.
Yeah, I think it's a great decision because you really fit well with the team and the system, and you play with a lot of your teammates now in Gilas. So I could see how even in the UAAP it's kind of tough. Like, I'm from LaSalle, and I don't know how we'll actually put up a great fight. I mean, we have a lot of recruits also, but then you guys have been playing you have a lot of reps already playing for Gilas, and you guys have superstars talent like you, Ange, SJ, and even Dave. You guys are really gonna play well. So I don't know. Hopefully, LaSalle can win, but then I'm not sure if we can actually try to beat you guys. And you guys have been winning what, 3 straight championships already. It'll be tough. But you mentioned also that you went here to the Philippines with your brother and you felt at home. But then, of course, the culture in the United States, and I mean, there's a lot of Filipinos in the West Coast, but then here in the Philippines, it's really different with everything, like the time zone and all the other things you do all throughout the day, and the traditions like during holidays and everything. But then for you, how was the adjustment period here in the Philippines? And at first, like, did you have a hard time, or what were some of the stuff that you were already used to because you do those things in the US?
Yeah, I think the adjustment wasn't that hard. I had my brother with me, and
Mhm.
we did everything together. We didn't have a car, so we would walk with the groceries. Try and carry as many bags as we could on our arms, walk into the grocery store. Um, yeah, finding a gym to work out in. I think we found a Gold's Gym um, across the street from Ateneo.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we were just trying to find our way, trying to find things that we used to do back home. We try and find if we could do it here somehow, and those really the main things for us. We had the UP Town Center
Mhm.
to walk around, chill. We found Gold's Gym where we work out, and the grocery store where we get food, and those are
Everything.
the only things we needed at the time. And we went to school, basketball, in those 3 places, and that was really it for us. So the adjustment wasn't that hard.
Yeah, it's really great that you guys were able to adjust, because some, like for instance, some imports or some Phil foreigners, they have a tough time adjusting at first, maybe with the weather, or yeah, the way of life, they're not used to it. Like here, there's a lot of cars and there's so many people all over the place. But at least for you, you guys were able to adjust well. But how about in the basketball aspect? Because I think, for instance, Christian Standhardinger, when he went here, he had a tough time because he gets pushed a lot now in the PBA. If you watch him play, like everyone likes putting a body on him because he's so strong also inside. But then for you, I think you also drive a lot. Like in FIBA, you saw Korea, they play physical on you. And did you have a hard time at first adjusting with the style of play here when you're in the US, or is it for you similar?
It is a little different because in the U.S. they try and officiate the game so that it'll be a high scoring game,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of offense, less defense. So when you learn to play defense there, you learn that you can just stay in front. You don't really use your hands too much because you don't want to get a foul. But when you come here, it's a lot of hands. There's always a lot of bumping, everything, and so it's just different in that aspect. But in terms of overall basketball, everything, it's usually all the same. You just learn to play with your teammates and make things work.
Yeah, and I know you're one of the most like patient players. You don't complain a lot. You won't get texts all over the place. But then are you really that kind of person? That's why it really helps, even if they push you a lot, they put a lot of hands on you because you're one of the best players, whether in Ateneo or in Gilas, and you're still able to keep your cool. Is it just like your personality? That's why you're just level headed and keep your mind on the game.
Yeah, I think like if you, when you react and everything, you kind of show that they're getting to you.
Mm-hmm.
So they can push me, they can do anything they want to me, but if I'm not reacting, then they'll never know if it's working or not. And so I think that's just sort of my technique. I'm not really phased by anything they do. I'm just playing basketball, playing the game. That's all I do.
Yeah. How about your observation on the crowd, or like the fans, the way the fans love basketball here? I mean, in the US, there's a lot of basketball fans also, but then I know some of the collegiate games, there's not like 20,000 people, 10,000 people in MOA or Araneta like here. But then when you watch like your Ateneo, I bet when you watch some of the games, you got surprised with this amount of people that watch the games, or even outside, like when you're in the mall, maybe with 30 or some of your other teammates, people ask for pictures. But like in the US, it wasn't like that. Or even you now, people were gonna ask for autographs or pictures. But then it's a pandemic. That's why I'm not really sure if people could go near you when you're in public. But then when you were still not playing for the Philippines, and you were still visiting, and you were playing maybe for Team B, what were your initial thoughts with the crowd and how the Filipinos love basketball so much?
Yeah, I remember going to the Ateneo LaSalle game, and the stadium was packed full of people, and everyone was screaming, and it was just new to me. That's rarely happened in my games in the States. It's rarely happened. There's just certain nights that they would happen, and the gym was packed, but it still was never to that capacity of people. And so the fan support and love for basketball and their favorite team, it's so nice to see. And it makes you really love playing basketball when you see everybody supporting you and your team. And I don't know, it just gives you play with a little more heart, a little more pride in that. And so it really helps us players with their support.
Yeah, for sure. It's been tough here in the pandemic. Like, I'm pretty sure if we didn't have a pandemic and then you guys played on Clark, and then you guys played, no, not in Clark, you guys would have played in Mo or Araneta. It would have helped more than the games against Korea, especially after when the coach said you guys were lucky after the game winner of SJ. I'm pretty sure like in the second game, people would have booed or something. It's like the Filipinos are always like that when it
Yeah.
comes to other countries or other teams insulting or saying those words. So I think it really helps. And also now you could see like the resilience of the Filipinos in terms of the Olympics. You could see how the boxers, you mentioned Yumir a while ago, and how he was able to show resilience in some of his fights and still like beat up the guy and knock him out. So I think those are some traits that Filipinos really portray that that you love also here in the country. Yeah, but then you mentioned that there is not a lot of games in 2020. It's kind of tough for you guys, but you played in Indonesia. That's the first game I found out about you, because I really didn't see you play in the US
Yeah.
and Division 1 or Division 2. But then in Indonesia, like people wrote articles that you were a great all-around player. You were the one who's going to replace 30, and some people said you were even better than 30. But then in that Indonesia game, how was your whole experience playing with CJ Perez, Kiefer, Troy Rosario, RR Pogoy, all these PBA players? And you also made an impact with your hustle. I remember you got a lot of offensive rebounds and layups also in that game.
hmm Yeah, at that point, I was new to the team. I was new to the Philippines still, and so I wasn't out there trying to, inject myself too hard. I was just there to try and complement my teammates as best as I could. Those guys had been there longer than me, and I was just playing there, trying to get them the ball in the right places. Do the little things, get some steals, some rebounds, make some passes for them. And so the first game was more of a just trying to get into the flow of the national team.
Yeah.
I wasn't too hard trying to force myself there. And so that's just kind of how it went. I went with the flow and tried to compliment everybody the best I could.
Yeah, from a fan's point of view, I also see that you're a really great team player. Like sometimes, maybe if you were like a Russell Westbrook or someone who's high volume, but not like, I don't know if you could be high volume, high efficiency, but then for you, you really just play in the team concept. And you mentioned in the first game that you were really buying in also and like adjusting to playing with these professional players. But where did you get that mentality of always being selfless and playing in a team concept? Because people like you, like superstars, not all the superstars in the world in their respective sports have that same mindset.
Mhm. Yeah, that started when I was young. You know, I played on teams where we had superstars, teams where I was the superstar, and
Yeah.
you know we would lose games, and my dad would always talk to me in the car, and after we lost, he was like, yeah, you can't do it yourself. This basketball is a team game, and so like there were so many times where he would tell me that, and it finally got to me that like you win as a team, you lose as a team. So that's kind of my mentality with that.
Yeah, a lot of the stories you've been mentioning also involve your parents and how they taught you. So it's really great to also hear from the audience that the support system is very important in those, especially here. Like, yeah, when you're losing, when you're down because of you don't get a lot of minutes or you didn't play well. But then if they're there to give you advice and give you the optimistic point of view and the positive and give you positive vibes, it will really help in the future. Like now you're mentioning that now even at here in the Philippines, and they're not really here to like watch you, and you're still performing at a high level and buying into the team concept, even if you could easily take what 20 shots a game 25 shots a game if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a pandemic and then there was no games, but then now finally we played in Bahrain after how many months of not having any basketball, and then you had a perfect game where you didn't miss any shot, and then the other game, Javi played well, Calvin of Tana, I think, and you also played pretty decent. But the first game was when everyone was like, wow, Dwight's this good and he doesn't even miss. When's he gonna miss? How was that whole experience in Bahrain playing with Yawan, Kobe, and Balti and all these other players after how many months of just what training alone? And I don't know what you guys were doing. Having you were in a bubble maybe for a few months.
That time I think we only had 10 days of practice before we had to leave.
Oh, okay, days. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that game was just a lucky game. I mean, I don't know how many times you'll play a game and you won't miss a shot. It's just something that it rarely happens, and so I mean, I guess it was just luckily for me, it happened on the first game where you
Mhm.
know sort of surprised everybody, but you know, I was just that's all you do. It's just every shot is just a regular shot, and so it's not really so much a big deal for me. And we won by a lot, and so I think that was what was more happy. I didn't even know it was a perfect game until the post game interview, and the guy said that I didn't miss, but I really didn't know.
Yeah, but then what impressed you the most with that team? And you mentioned that you guys, I thought you trained for at least a month or two, but then I forgot that you only trained for 10 days. And what impressed you the most with the team because of how well you guys played, not individually only, but yeah, as a team, even if you're all from different schools here in the Philippines.
Yeah, we're all different schools. Everyone's used to being the guy on their team, and so we all came together, a bunch of college guys playing against the professional Thailand team, and I think some people, were scared that we might lose because it's college versus pro team, but we
Mhm.
came out there and we won by a lot, and so I think it was a pretty nice showing towards the future of our players here in the Philippines. We continue to improve, and we're just college kids right now, but we're continuing to improve, and hopefully we can be at the top of Asia pretty soon, and then make some noise on the world level.
Yeah. How about your thoughts on the all amateur team, or and because not any of the countries have that team, that they sent an all amateur team to the OQT. I don't think any other country did that. But then in the future, I think Coach Tab said that he's open to having PBA players also on the team, but they need to have themselves acclimated like with a few months of training, because they just can't like put themselves there and they don't know the system, and then they'll play high leverage games with you guys that are really acclimated with the system, because it's gonna be messy for sure. But then for you, what are your thoughts on an all amateur team and also the possibility of having PBA professional players in the future?
Yeah, the thing I like about having the all cadets team is, we play with something to prove still. We're
Mhm.
not professionals. We're just out there trying to prove ourselves, prove our worth on the national team, and so you kind of see that fire a little differently than maybe some professional players that might come. They got their life set. They're playing pro already, so there's different things with that. But the benefits of having the PBA players and the professionals, they have a different level of experience than we do, and so that kind of shows on the court too. So it's kind of a balancing of having those two on the team in the future and seeing the benefits and the cons of each of them. So that's sort of the coach's decision for us. We just listen to the coaches and play the way they want us to. So that's not something we can control, but there's benefits and cons to both sides.
Yeah, I told Isaac it would be great if we have Jordan Clarkson or Jalen Green, but then I'm not sure in the World Cup if they have enough time to trade with us, and it's kind of tough for them to be able to grasp Coach Tab's system if they're only going to be here for a month or 2 weeks. It's going to be really hard. But then I believe that, yeah, the insertion of PBA players, you really need the ones that are willing to learn the system, not the ones that, yeah, you mentioned that it's easy for you guys because you guys have something to prove. But then some of the professional players, I mean, there's no names, like just in general, like if you're a professional, you want to get the limelight or get the more touches. Like, yeah, and Team USA, they kind of had a hard time at first to get themselves in a role player. Like some of them accepted the job of a role player. So I think Coach Tab's gonna find the right balance of how many of the cadets team will be in the World Cup and how many professionals. Because in my opinion, I think you still need a few at least PBA players, maybe like Junmar or CJ Perez, or a shooter like Matthew Wright. You need a few also to complement you guys for the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, but then you moving on to the Korea game and Indonesia game, like, yeah, the restrictions were eased, and you guys were able to train longer in Kalamba for this. And I think it was moved because it was supposed to be on Feb, they moved it, and then it was supposed to be here, then at Doha, then back here. So it was hard for you guys because you didn't know when you were really gonna play. But then as a player and as a player that was really getting yourself acclimated to Gilas again after the pandemic, how was the experience of training for it and preparing for it, and you guys were going to play Korea and you knew that they were a really strong team?
Yeah, it was tough. Starting in January, we were practicing already for Korea, and it got canceled again. Then we started practicing again after a while,
Mm-hmm.
bubble, and just we were just training, and we never know when the games are, and so it got really tiring in the bubble. It's tiring because all you do is practice, eat, sleep, and you never really feel rested because it's not your home. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get that real rest. So it was a long tiring practice. So I mean that's kind of why we played so hard in the games, is because we practiced so hard for this. We have to win. So that's kind of what happened against Korea, is we practiced so hard. There's no way we would let Korea beat us with all that practice we had.
Yeah, and I like how Coach Tab found the perfect players that would really be willing to go through the training that you had, because he said it's very exhausting, and maybe not all the players here in the Philippines that he could have chosen would have been willing to do that. And I like how he found this bunch of guys, all the ones on the pool, they're all willing to serve the country and train for so many months. But then for you, what kept you going and motivated to continue playing, except that, yeah, you said you had a tough time to rest? Was it like what, playing PS4 during your free time, or what would you do?
In free time, I was doing the same thing I do in the quarantine here, just watching movies and playing PS4.
Oh, yeah,
It was
there's
oh,
barely anything to do. It's when it's
nothing,
like that. Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, but then you guys to train really well for Korea. Like the game plan was really well planned, and also in Indonesia, you guys played well, even if it was a really great first half. But based from those three games, for you as a person, what do you really like about the whole team, the performance, and you guys didn't lose. In the Korea games, though, you guys didn't play well, like in the first half and of the first game. But in the second half, you guys really played well, especially you in the second half of the second game. You really played a great all around game. So, what's your observation of the whole performance of the team?
Yeah, I think it was big in the Clark window because it gave us a lot of confidence towards our program that like it'll work. I think there was a lot of doubters of how our team was all college guys. Coach Tab being there, a lot of people doubting us, and so us going undefeated there kind of proved that we belong. And with a lot of hard work and practice, anybody can be anybody. And so I think it just gave us a lot of confidence in ourselves and the fans confidence in us. And so I think it was really big for our program, those wins.
Yeah, but how did you not make the outside noise affect you though? Like you mentioned, like I know a lot of people were kind of doubting, like it's all Ateneo players, it's all amateur players, and why are you making them play against pros? Like these players from Korea are all stars in their professional league. But then how did you guys not mind it? Like it's easy to literally just check your DMs and or your mentions on Twitter and they're like doubting you. But then for you and the other team, if you know, like how did you guys keep mindset with a goal? Keep your mindset with a goal to win all these games.
Yeah, that's the coaching staff helped us stay on track. Most of the days we're probably too tired to even listen to what people were saying, so that's kind of helped too. So we were really just working hard there. We didn't really listen to what everybody was saying, but we just looked at how long we've been training, and we just wanted to win those games. That's all that was in our heads at that time.
Yeah, and I like also those games that despite the physicality of Korea in the first half, like you mentioned in previous interviews that you got kind of shocked with how they were playing you, and you adjusted in the midst of the game, and this you played well second quarter onwards, and a lot of the plays were for you, I think, in the first quarter, and I think in the first minutes you only had 4 or 6 points. It was kind of tough, and then in the second quarter, I think when RJ came in, that's when they found a spark plug. But then you still played well the whole game, and in the end game, I like your decision making also of passing it to SJ. I think that was in the play. I think he was not even one of the options. But then you had the high basketball IQ of being able to pass it to him, and he converted with a game winner. But I wanted to ask, like, how do you develop that IQ of basketball IQ? Not everyone has that of passing it to the perfect play, even if it's not the play perfect pass at the perfect time. And then also, yeah, being having that IQ of still driving the ball, even if you play physical. I think you got a lot of free throw attempts in that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Most of the time, how I learned basketball was back in college in the States. Really, I learned basketball the most there because I wasn't playing basketball, so the only thing I could do was watch the video of how our team was playing. So I was watching videos after the games. I was trying to find. That was one of those ways where I learned how to get better. And I was watching a lot of video, a lot of film, and then I had a year under Coach Tab already at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Team B, I was learning, and so it's just a long process. It's not something that comes overnight. You just really have to study basketball and really work at it. And so it comes with hard work. It's the same thing as the physical side of basketball. There's the mental side of basketball, which is probably even more important than your physical work.
Yeah, that's I agree with. I like the one you were saying that you watch a lot of film, because JJ Redick in his podcast he mentions that he feels some of the young guys now in the NBA, they just play and they don't watch film as much as his generation, and they really put a lot of time and effort in watching film. Like in League Pass, when they don't have a game, it's on and they're watching a lot of games so they could watch their opponents and how they play. But then you mentioned, yeah, it's very important to watch yourself and critique yourself also, and in order to improve. And so I guess that's why you're also one of the players that have high basketball IQ here, especially here in the Philippines. And you never know when you'll use it. Like in that game winner, you're not gonna be like, oh, I need to have high basketball IQ because I'm gonna have a game winner where I'm the one who's gonna give the assist. So I think, yeah, it's really a great process to develop that you have been doing well so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then there was a unfortunate part that you didn't get to play in the OQT, and for me, Of course, I didn't see that you were injured in the second Korea game, but then Coach Tab said that that's where you got injured. And what was the whole process like of the injury, like from the when you felt it, and then all throughout the process? Like you didn't play in China already, and then but you still flew to Serbia because you thought there was a chance that they thought also that there was a chance you were gonna play. So what was the whole process like from the beginning until like when the games were already gonna start and you couldn't play?
Yeah, it was. There was like a. It was in the first Korea game where I felt a little something in my leg, but
Oh.
after the game, I was like, maybe I'm just sore. I haven't played it. It's my first game in a while. I'm probably just sore. Then I went on and went on and play. It was still there, but it wasn't really anything bothering me that much. Then in the last 3 minutes of the second Korea game, I felt something, kind of go in my leg, and so I was like, it was pretty painful. But there was only 3 minutes left. The game was close, so I was like, all right, you just got to finish this game out. And then that night, we were celebrating. It was still sore for me. And then after we were done celebrating everything, I went to my room and I couldn't sleep. Like it was just aching so bad. And then I was trying to lay on my side sleeping and it was just aching. The next morning, it was really hard for me to walk. And then, I was just taking it day by day from then. And the China game came, I couldn't play yet. And then, there wasn't really much time in between
The games, yeah.
the games and then flying to Serbia. So I didn't have much time to recover. And, they brought me on the trip still. And in Serbia, it just didn't get better. I couldn't control it, but I was just there sitting and watching them play. But, I wanted to play as bad as I could. It's just I really couldn't.
Yeah, is it similar to Anthony Davis when he tried to play also in Game 6 and he had the groin injury? Is it similar to what you had?
Probably, it was probably about the same thing. It was pretty bad, but it wasn't. It's okay now.
Yeah, how long did you take to fully recover from it? Because like I think you just need to rest, right, for it to fully heal.
Yeah. I was out for like almost a month
Oh, that's pretty long.
with that from the Clark window, the whole Serbia. Then we had the quarantine. All of that time, I wasn't really doing anything. So it was close to about a month until our next bubble. I was just resting there, and then the next bubble came, and I was doing the drills on the first day of practice, and I was so tired. I was so exhausted. I wasn't really in shape, and just trying to get back in shape before the Jordan trip.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you could have made a big difference. I know because for me, you're one of the best players on the team. And against Serbia, you guys only lost by 7. And yeah, Dominican, it was kind of an off night for you guys. Maybe, yeah, because you guys were tired with a lot of games that you played in Clark and the practices that you had. But what were the observations that you had from a fan or like from an observer's point of view since you weren't able to play in both of those games? But then I saw a lot of positive things also, like Jordan Heading was a shooter, and I thought you guys had a weakness in shooting, and then Jordan was like making all these threes in both those games. He was your leading scorer. And against Serbia, I saw Ange and Kai playing well against Boban, and they were limiting him. Even if he had 25, it wasn't easy 25 points. And then you guys played well. Like Milos Teodosic didn't really have his best game, I think. And Serbia didn't have a really great shooting game also against us. But then for you, what did you really like about the performance that you could see a bright future ahead?
Yeah, I was watching. I was really happy for those guys. They're fighting no matter what. We're just college guys playing against world class talent there in Serbia and Dominican Republic, and they really fought. In both the games, the Serbia game was close until the end. Dominican was close for a half, and it just showed that they have a lot of fight, and we have potential to be up there as well if we can just keep improving and learn from everything. And I don't know, it was really promising to see the future of our basketball team there. They really showed a lot.
Yeah, and then one question I'd like to ask is how some of your teammates, maybe they're not as popular as you or Kai or Ange, but then they're contributing a lot. Like maybe from me, I could notice it because I watch a lot of basketball, but maybe from a casual fan, they're not really, they only look at the stats and they don't really know a lot of the schemes that happen or how this person's successful with the plays. But who are some of your teammates that's maybe underrated, or yeah, not a lot of people notice, but they make a good impact? Because you mentioned that you were proud of them and how they performed all these games.
Yeah, there's a lot of, every game there's someone there's some people that are gonna stand out more than others. That's just the way it is. We're all good players there. Everyone has the potential to be, the standout for that game. And, whoever it is, the rest of us are just looking to, feed them. They might have a good shooting night. So we're trying to run the plays for them. So we just all support each other. And I think that's kind of how you see it. No one's trying to fight for, like the headlines or anything. We're over there playing to win, playing together, and I think that's the best thing about our team is that we're out there supporting each other.
Yeah, that's really great, and it would really develop your chemistry more. And over these next years, you guys are going to be the core of the national team. But I'm also interested on what's your take on the improvements that you guys could have with the whole team, because yeah, you still have many years of you guys being the main cogs of the team, and you have the World Cup. But then for you, what do you think the team will work on? Like for the next windows, you said in November, you're gonna have a game already for the World Cup qualifiers. But what are you guys gonna focus on? Like on defense, on offense, yeah, everything.
Yeah, I think recently in Jordan, our defense got exposed a little bit. Our rotations aren't really tight like we want them. So the teams, they were kind of exposing us there they got open shots. They got players in position for rebounds, a lot of fouls. There was just things that we got exposed on the defensive end. I think that's something we really need to focus on because that's sort of what we take pride in as a defensive team. We want to keep our opponents at a lower score, and so definitely we need to tighten up our defense going forward. I think that's probably going to be the main thing we focus on in the bubble.
Yeah, that's for sure. I really love defense. Like some people don't love defense as much as I do. Like when I used to play, my coach would make me play like the guard the best offensive player on the opposing team because I don't know, I love defense more than the others. That's why people like Draymond Green, Marcus Smart, I really love them in the NBA. They're two of my favorite players in the league. But one other thing that I'd want to ask is also your future. What do you plan? Yeah, you're gonna play in Ateneo, I think, for 2 years. You think you can play for 2 years, right? For
Yeah,
Ateneo. Yeah,
playing here.
you can play for 2 years in Ateneo. And what's your future? Like what are your long-term goals? Short-term and long-term goals for your basketball career?
Um, you know, I don't really at this point, I don't really look too far forward. The same thing as I've done my whole life. I kind of focus on what I'm doing right now
Mm-hmm.
and trying to improve, make the best of it for me, and then whatever opportunities, that's when I'll either take it or look for other options. I'm in a good place right now, and I'm just sort of seeing what comes for me, and I'm gonna take it from there.
Yeah. Okay. So, these are not the non-basketball part of your fanfare or popularity here in the Philippines, because there in the US for sure, like you weren't as popular as you were here, and I'm really interested in how you adjusted. I mean, maybe you didn't experience it as much as you would have if there was no pandemic. Like if there was no pandemic, maybe if you'd walk in UP town, like you mentioned, maybe you can't walk for like an hour without any for like an hour of people not asking pictures from you or autographs, especially like the girls that really, like, I don't know, mention you or comment on all your posts. But then for you, how did you adjust with that? Isn't it like tough? Because in the US you could do anything literally and no one's gonna like mind you, but then here, like any post you do or any tweet you do, they're gonna react. But then the malls thing, you didn't really experience it, or did you experience it also because it's the pandemic though? How did you adjust with that?
I mean, it didn't really change who I was that much.
Mm-hmm.
I still did the same things. I still, post the things I want. I'll say the things I want to do. And there's obviously a lot of people looking at what I do now, and sometimes I try and be a little bit more um, thoughtful of what I'm doing. And at times I try and post things that would be helpful for other people, inspiring and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't really change too much of what I do. I'm really happy by all the love and support that I have now. It's something new for me, and I really appreciate it. But it didn't really change who I was.
Yeah, I like that personality of yours because it's like you remain humble. Like for instance, June Mar, he's like a 6-time MVP and he gets all the accolades and attention, but then he doesn't really change in who he was when he was not an MVP. And I really like that part of you also because I follow you on social media and I think I see how you are and how accommodating also you are with the fans. Like you sometimes reply on their stuff or you like their comments and also on Twitter and stuff like that. And for you, do you ever get affected with how the fans treat you, like yeah, the way they comment or the way they mention you on Twitter? Because some people they get affected with the stuff that fans say.
I don't really get too affected about it because some people's opinions are just their opinions of me, and I just when it's positive things, I appreciate the positive things. When it's negative things, I don't really listen to it. So it's just selective hearing for me.
Yeah, that's also great for you, and also having maybe a girlfriend that's a really popular personality also in the sporting world. It also adds to you also that they also love you more. Like her fans are also gonna love you, and then your fans are also gonna love her. So maybe that's why you're also very popular. Like I think my friends watch her vlogs that you're there, and they find it very interesting. And for you, it's a great maybe contrasting because your personality is more like shy type or you're laid back, but then you're still being able to interact with the fans and show how much you appreciate them. And I think people love that. I heard from my friends that they find it funny also that the way you act in the vlogs of Kiana.
Yeah. At first, I was shy with doing those vlogs and stuff. I was like, I told her, that's not me, that's not my personality. But then I started doing more and more with her, and I started enjoying it. It started becoming fun for me too. So it's pretty fun for me interacting with the fans, and like if whatever they want to see, maybe we'll do it. But it's become kind of fun for me to do.
Yeah, but then in the malls, like the one I mentioned earlier, do the people really go to you? Because now it's the pandemic, so I think that's when you started getting popular. So do they still go to you, or they have some respect now because you have the pandemic?
Some people take pictures and stuff, but I don't really mind or anything.
Oh, okay. So you still allow them.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I know some people they might be like you don't know if they have the virus or if they go too near because you can't like sometimes they're so killing or they're so happy that they saw you.
Yeah, sometimes it is, but for me, it isn't. It just is what it is. Sometimes it might be the only time they can see me or I can see them. So I just make it happen.
Yeah. So here for the final part of the interview, these are like certain questions I ask my guests also. And I have a feeling you know one of this because of the NBA bubble and you watch a lot of NBA that um the players were very vocal and they were telling all the people how to vote with their George Floyd movement also and with the Joe Biden Trump elections and they were able to help and educate people on how to vote. And here in the Philippines, I'm not sure if you noticed that a lot of the athletes are not as vocal compared to the ones in the NBA bubble or even others like Megan Rapinoe and all the other like Colin Kaepernick. But then here in the Philippines, I feel that we could also have a change because you guys are very popular, like basketball, volleyball, and all the other athletes. You guys have a lot of followers in order to educate citizens here. Like, so, for instance, here in the Philippines, it's the elections next year, and you guys could maybe like help them educate them on the candidates, like what LeBron did with the in the U.S. But what are your thoughts on athletes and politics or social issues like being intertwined, and yeah, you're being related, and athletes being more vocal with these issues?
Yeah, I think, with the athletes here, they have big platforms to provide information to people. But, sometimes I don't think there's certain things that, you need to be educated on to speak about. You don't want to just put false information out there for people to read or something like that. You want to make sure that things that you put out are things that you believe in, things you know are true. And so with that, I think that's just the biggest thing with, voicing out your opinions and stuff. And I don't think people should try and convince other people of, this candidate versus this candidate. I think you should just, convince them to vote for the one that they want. Don't
Yeah.
try and tell them which one to vote for.
Yeah.
Just tell them to vote.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. I think, not too demanding with the things that you put out there, but use your social media, your platform to educate and help people there.
Yeah, for sure. That will be great. That will be great help. But then I also realized that I also heard from other guests that our culture is very different from the Americans. That's why maybe they're more vocal than us in terms of those issues. Like we're more laid back. I mean, it's not like we're not educated. I mean, we know what's going on, but
Yeah.
then we really just rather not post it, or we rather keep it to ourselves or only our friends and relatives. So maybe that's maybe something we could improve on also, and hopefully we become a better country also. And like now in the pandemic, we've been back to square one. We're back to ECQ, and I don't know. It was like this in March 2020. So hopefully, a lot of things change.
Definitely. I mean, the pandemic definitely opened a lot of people's eyes. The Philippines, it's not really in a good place right now with how they handled the COVID pandemic, but hopefully this um, brings us to a better future. Learning from this experience bring us to a better future in the Philippines.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have one more question before the two fun questions that I normally ask my guests that I just remembered. Because yeah, you guys played a lot during the pandemic, like in 2021 in the bubble. And what could you advise for the people that are really down or pessimistic with with their mental health, or with the way that their dreams, they don't have a way to achieve it? And what could you tell them on to remain positive and still have a high hopes and continuing to achieve their dream, even if they're like my age at 21 or even younger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely hard. I know, because there was times when I was in my condo alone. My brother went back to the States. I was just there alone. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't play in college in the States. I'm not going to play in college here in the Philippines because of this pandemic. That's what things were going in my head, and like you start to really doubt yourself, you get anxious about those things. But I think you just gotta pray to God, and just have a belief system, a support system that helps you, and you just keep your mind on what's important and stay on track. Maybe there's certain players that can't play basketball right now. The college players, for example, they can't play basketball right now, but they can still work out. They can still get their body in shape as if they were going to play tomorrow. You can still work hard, and then when that opportunity and time finally comes, you just got to make sure you're ready for it. Opportunity plus preparation equals success.
Yeah, that's a great quote that people can end up with this interview, and hopefully they could apply it even if non-athletes or people that don't really watch sports. But then if they see this interview, they could apply it to their own careers. So for the final two questions, these are just for fun, and one of it is, if you had opportunity to have dinner with five people, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Kobe Bryant, Drake, Kobe Bryant, Drake, probably LeBron. Two more. Oh, Kobe Bryant, Drake, LeBron, probably Michael Jordan. I'm a basketball fan. It's mostly basketball guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's that's the four I could think of. I can't really think of anybody else.
Okay. So for the final question, and I mentioned that I've been doing this podcast for 30 plus episodes and I've had a lot of great guests so far. And you're one of them that to add to the list that people have been requesting for so long. And who would you suggest I should guest here on the DVD show? Like it doesn't need to be basketball players. It could be like any from any sport because I tackle any sport also. And who do you think would have a great story, or who do you think would be a have a who do you think I could have a great conversation with?
And maybe those Olympic medalists, they probably have really interesting stories. They're probably training the whole pandemic just for the Olympics, and I think that's something I would want to hear about them. I want to hear their stories. The just how hard it was, how hard they worked. I'm interested in their stories too. So hopefully you can get them.
Yeah, hopefully I'll try to message them after like a few weeks maybe because they've been busy with the mainstream media. Then yeah, I just try to message anyone and sometimes they reply, sometimes they don't. So hopefully the Olympians reply, but then yeah, I'll give it some time because they really accommodate the other mainstream media first. So yeah,
Yep.
that's it. Thank you so much, Dwight, for joining me here on the DVD show. And a lot of I mentioned already that a lot of people really wanted you here. Like some of my friends really have like a crush on you. And do you have any final message like for the fans and also like my friends that really wanted you here and they're
Mhm.
really waiting for this episode. Some of my friends really want to hear from you and see you here on my podcast. So do you have any final message for everyone?
I just want to thank everyone for their support. I know it's really hard right now with the pandemic and all the situation here in the Philippines, but things get better. Just stay safe out there, stay sane, and let's just pray for a better future.
Yeah, so is it okay before you go if we could take a picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just take it. Wait, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much again, Dwight, for joining me here on the DVD show. And yeah, hopefully everyone enjoys this episode and stay safe out there in quarantine.
Thanks, bro. Thanks, bro. Thanks for